Awesome news, folks. We have achieved something pretty amazing. We are on Virtual Intel. This is the channel that brings you as much information as possible about anything that I've learned from animation recently, and most definitely what is on the top of my intelligence level at that moment in time. So what you're seeing here is something in the animation world that does puzzle a lot of people, and that has to do with the footlocking issues. So footlocking, what does that deal with? That deals with when you're doing motion capture type of animations, like you're trying to extract data from maybe a video file, or you got all these data points on your motion capture suit, whether it's it's markerless or it has markers or whatever the case may be. And when you extract that data and it goes into the actual software, the 3D software that's supposed to accept it, everything doesn't get translated the way that the animator or the individual trying to animate whatever 3D model with that data, for some reason you're not getting the exact of what you want, and most definitely you'll see a lot of movement that's unstable. So why am I focused on the feet here? Well, what I'm doing, I'm trying to reconstruct the way that it's supposed to work in terms of foot locking using Blender, and I chose to use a cloud-based AI. Well, actually it's not really cloud-based. I forgot to say it is desktop based. So it's a desktop based AI Mocap solution known as Movmi. So Movmi. So this is the tool right here, and it's really unique the way that it works. Now the user interface may be a little bit different from most of the cloud-based UI type of AI Mocap interfaces. So if you're not used to it, you could check out this video. Maybe towards the middle or the tail end, I'll show you how that portion works. It's not really that complicated. It's actually simple. So the developer, I don't necessarily know his name per se 100%, but let me go check in my email to see if I could find his name, just to give him some credit, because he definitely went hard at trying to create this thing. He is Ahmed, I don't know the last name, Abar or something like that. I can't really see it that well, but let me just zoom in, because I want to give him some credit, man. He definitely went hard at making this. It's Ahmed Askar. So he went hard at making Movmi. So Ahmed Askar is the developer, I believe, but it says founded by, so he could be the developer and the founder of Movmi. And if y'all folks want to try to get it, what I recommend for you to do is go to his YouTube channel. So let's go over to the Movmi YouTube channel. Why I chose to use this is because he recently updated it, and he wants people to try it out and check it out. And he needs some help, you know what I'm saying? If you're into development and you create something that's really useful for the online world, or for anybody out there in general on a planet, it really does need support, especially if it works. And if it works well, generally what makes it work even better is when people start to notice it and start to give it that love and support. And he actually created this thing for people to use for free. And I believe he also has what is known as what is that thing called? He has a campaign page. I think it's called Patreon. That's what it is. So he has a Patreon page. So let me see. Let me type that up real quick, just for those who maybe they find it useful and they want to donate or something to that effect. So let's go on to Patreon and see if we can find him or his location. Movmi. Let's see. No, I cannot find it directly through the name like that, but let's try to type in his name. Ahmed Askar, something like that. Not really sure if that's him. Alright, so I'm not able to find it that way directly, but let's go to About. So what I recommend for him is to put the link in his YouTube channel. So that way, people like myself, if I have a little extra money or whatever, I could donate on Patreon directly through it. But let's go to his website. He has his website link here. Alright. So the latest version of Movmi is 1.4.0. And here goes the Patreon link. Let's go there. He got ads, obviously, because it's a free software. Alright, here we are. So I don't know why we wasn't able to find it by the name, but it looks like the name is Movmi. So if you go to patreon.com, put a / and put Movmi, and you'll be able to get to his location. Now, I'm not an affiliate, obviously. I'm just a 3D enthusiast / student. I'm a student in the 3D world. I want to become an animator. I keep working at it. I keep training myself, and I keep making these YouTube videos to store the information that I recently learned so I can go back to it someday in the future if I need that information. That's how my brain works. That's why I'm on YouTube currently plugging away. And I have a goal in mind to become an animator. I want to become a filmmaker, but I want to start out slow, obviously, and I want to make music videos, which is very similar to films, but they're very short, obviously, right? Maybe 2 to 3 minutes or something like that. Could be even shorter than that. So I want to make animated shorts, pretty much short films, and music videos for now. That's my goal, to become an animator of a 3D in the 3D world space. So it would behoove you, if you're trying to do that, the same thing as what I'm trying to do, check out his locations and most definitely use his tool. Give it a try. Spread some love for him. That way he could definitely get some sort of acknowledgement, and this thing can move from 360 subscribers to at least 1,000 or more. Give him some love. So other than that, that's the tool. I downloaded it. It's not really that hard to download. Pretty simple. If you don't like ads, just try to avoid them. If you like them, obviously you can go and you can check them out. So what I downloaded was the Windows installer 0.8 gigabyte version. It goes onto your computer. It's not really that hard for it to make that transition. I'm not going to show you the whole process at all, I don't believe, because most people know how to do that. And then Windows installer 1.4 gigabytes. This is another version if you have an NVIDIA GPU. I have a Radeon GPU, so that's why I chose the other version. So it's up to you what type of version you want, depending on your GPU type. I chose the CPU type. So let's get out of there and let's get out of this. So pretty much what it showcases is me. Hold on, let me reset it. And it's not resetting. Stop. Oh, I know why. I have to deactivate the render view. Okay. I'll show y'all folks, like I was saying, somewhere in the middle or towards the tail end of this video, how this tool works. It's not really that hard. So pretty much it's showcasing me walking in a random location wherever I live at or whatever. And I just wanted to create a walk cycle just to see if it could extract that data and then transfer it into a 3D model's movement for animating the 3D model. So I got that data and I got it here. I just want to show y'all folks at the point that I actually got to, my walk cycle corrections and the footlocking issues of how to correct. So currently what you're seeing is I'm in the correction mode. So it took me, I would say, a good 2 to 3 months to really build up the entire workflow of the footlocking. From when I first got into trying to figure out why the feet would go crazy and unstable, to the point of where can I go to fix it? What kind of solutions can I come up with? And most definitely using Blender, because this is Blender. If y'all folks don't know how to use Blender or anything like that, just let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll try to start creating some tutorials on it. Now, I've never created a single tutorial on Blender. And the reason why I say that is because I wasn't really that knowledgeable of Blender, and I didn't feel comfortable trying to create tutorial videos for people, and I don't really know what I'm doing 100%. So now I've gotten to the point where I pretty much have got a lot of experience with Blender, and I got a good gist of how to make it work. So I believe I'm ready to start creating tutorials for it. Hopefully they can be something that y'all folks can benefit from on a large scale, not just a small, minute scale. Hopefully you can take it to the point where you can add it to your creativity or your toolbox, so to speak, and so on and so forth. So what I'm trying to do right here, I'm just trying to move the 3D cursor in view, and I was trying to figure out where my move tool was at. Alright, so in this tutorial, you're gonna get to learn pretty much how to make the foot locking become more effective, how to get rid of the janky, jumpy, unstable motion. What I learned is to use multiple tools in combination, in unison. I learned how to use the graph editor on Blender to some degree, and I pretty much got a good handle on it right now, because it is something that could become a mystery to the average person. It took me about, I would say, 3 years to build up the courage to even try it. And then when I got to trying it, I still didn't know what it was. So it took me some time to uncover it. Now I found another tool. Let me talk about another tool that basically gave me the courage to really tackle the graph editor. And that was about 2 to 3 months ago. And that tool is known as Pixcap. So let's go over to that real quick. Pixcap. Now this tool also should be checked out. It's a cloud-based AI Mocap system, very similar to Movmi. The difference in this is that this has what is known as a 3D animation timeline, and it also has a graph editing capability, very similar to Blender, but it's a lot less technical, and the timeline here on Pixcap is a lot less technical as well. And all of this is being provided online through a web browser. So I highly recommend for y'all folks to check it out. You'll see what I'm talking about when you get to it. It's a lot less confusing than Blender when it comes to the user interface. So that's why I was able to really dig my teeth in, my digital teeth, so to speak, and really get to understand to some degree what the graph editor is, and even it expanded my knowledge on what a timeline is for animator. You need both. You need a timeline and you need a graph editor if you ever choose to become a 3D animator. Now, I don't know if 2D works that way as well for 2D animation, but I know for sure 3D animation requires those two things. Now, when you're going into doing editing of your animations, that's when they come in effect. So you gotta really take the time and invest that interest in it, first thing. And you have to be under the realization that it's not going to happen overnight, and it's going to take a lot of patience, because patience is the key, I believe, to animation. If you don't have any patience, then you're probably never going to become an animator. And if you're not willing to develop patience, say you don't have patience currently and you have a very short attention span or whatever the case may be, then I think you should start to look into figuring out and learning yourself in terms of how to become a patient individual or a patient person if you ever want to become an animator, because I'm telling you, it's not something that you should rush into. You're going to miss the points. So what I'm doing now, and when I say miss the points, you're going to miss the points of every little thing that you need to know, because in terms of 3D animation, if you want to make it accurate, if you really want to make it look good, from what I've learned so far and what I've been accumulating in the knowledge, and it takes an accumulative knowledge to get there. What I've been accumulating, I'm learning that it takes a lot of time. Keep that in mind. It doesn't matter what you choose to do. You can try to bypass anything and try to figure out a way, an easier way to make it work. But I'm telling you, if you want to make it look good and you want to make it look accurate, you're gonna be going through a lot of time exchange, and it's not gonna happen right away. All right, so what we're doing now, we're gonna move this guy a little bit by using a timeline. Right now I'm at from the 0 to the 89th keyframe, so I'm located on the 89th keyframe in the viewport of Blender. So the reason why I'm talking about that, if you know anything about animation, you'll know that you need that information to understand what you're going to do next. So what I'm doing here, I'm actually editing out some portions of the main object. So the whole entire rig and all of its mesh and everything, I'm actually editing out or editing in keyframes, because I want to lift up this guy's foot, I want to move this guy's leg, I want to move and do different things. Now you have to jump in between pose mode and object mode when you're doing a lot of this editing of foot locking, because if you try to just do everything in pose mode, when you say you want to lift or you want to how would you say, move the entire body based on the rig, if you do that, you're gonna tend to mess up some of the animations. If you're moving the whole entire body, you probably would want to do it in object mode. It's say you're moving it in the vertical, up and down, pretty much vertical plane, or the Z axis in relation to Blender, or by default in relation to Blender's axes by default, because Blender has default axes, but you can also change the axes how you see fit, because Blender is something that's highly customizable. It's up to you what you choose to do with Blender, because you're pretty much the boss. You're the boss of yourself on Blender. There's nobody telling you what to do unless you work for an animation studio. You're pretty much working for yourself. That's why it's kind of hard. Really, that's what makes Blender even more harder. Besides all of these options on the screen that are most definitely intimidating for the brand new user, somebody's brand new to Blender, has no idea how to use it. Most of this stuff looks very intimidating, and it's the reason why a lot of people will tend to shy away from it and want to quit from face value, just looking at it, and they're saying to themselves, how am I going to figure all this stuff out? Well, like I said, it takes patience. So if you don't have any patience, all I could say is good luck, pretty much. But if you have patience, you can really, really go far. So what I'm going to do here, actually, I want to rotate this foot up a little bit. I already know it's hitting the ground plane. I already know that it's moving at a good angle. But the whole thing is that what I'm doing is I'm trying to create a plane that it's walking across. It's already walking straight. I got it where the feet are actually more stable than it ever been. So the whole thing is, when you're trying to create this kind of foot locking thing, you have to think about what the full object is doing from one point to the next point. So from the 0 frame to the end frame. So you look at every little detail of what it's doing, and in your mind you create a linear type of a plane. So you create a mental plane, so to speak, of a linearity, because you want the legs and the feet to land on the ground in a linear course of direction. You don't want it to be going through the ground every now and then, through the ground, up and down, bobbing and weaving and stuff like that. Well, weaving would be side to side, so it'd be bobbing is like up and down. So you don't want it to bob in and out of the ground plane like it's doing right here. See how it's going through? So the first thing that you have to do is go into the graph editor, and you have to full isolate that individual plane that's responsible for it going up and down bobbing. So you have different bobbing things that happen. You have the whole entire body that might be going up and down. So the whole entire field of view of the entire body, the legs, the head, the arms, everything could be going up and down. If you see it all, the entire body going up and down, that means that you have to fix the Z axis most of the time. So the Z location. So what you would do, right? You'll look at the whole entire body, and actually, before looking at the whole entire body, you have to isolate the individual bones that control the whole body when it's in motion. So the individual bone that does that is generally the spine or the hip bone. So the hip bone or spine could be responsible for its movement going forward, backward, for the whole entire body rotating, for the whole entire body going up and down in general. So let's see, if we try to move it now, what you'll see is that it does some weird rotation. See what I'm saying? So that's why I was saying, okay, so going all the way up, it's not allowing me to go all the way up. That's probably because there's something that's locked it in place. There's some sort of a constraint or something like that that the developer has built into this model. So this model basically is pre-configured. So if you get a pre-configured model from a third-party developer / 3D modeler, you can't really get it to do exactly what you want it to do 100%. Then you have to just basically go along the lines of what the developer created. So if you try to like go outside the box and change too much stuff, it may break the model and the model won't work as intended. So if you have that issue, you run into that issue, instead of moving the hip bone at this juncture in time, what I would do is go out to object mode and move the entire bone armature / rig in general. So all the bones at once. So I'll move it up and down to correct some of the issues. So let's go back to pose mode. Now, if you notice, when you go down, the whole entire body corrects itself. See? So it's allowing me to go down. And let's see if it's allowing me to go forward. Nope. What it's taking is turning the head and making it like in a lay down position. So it's laying down. So it's taking the head and the whole rest of the body and turning it. So it looks like there's some sort of constraint that's locking it in one position, basically. So I'm not worried 100% about it. Like I said, I can go in and I can do other ways of correcting, going outside from pose mode and going to object mode. So mainly this how-to is going to be for people who already understand animation on Blender. It's not really for anybody who's a beginner. If you're a beginner, you definitely want to go and learn 3D animation on Blender first, because there's no way you're going to really get to fully comprehend everything that I'm doing here. Alright, so what I'm going to do now, instead of doing all of the main bone, the main bone that's responsible for moving everything, which is the spine bone, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move the foot up a little bit. So I'm going to rotate it. So at this juncture, I'll just rotate it just enough that it touches the ground plane. So when I do that, I make sure that I have automatic keyframing set. So what it does is wherever it was previously in the animation zone, it's gonna start at that point and then start animating a little bit further. So it's gonna transition from one point of reference to another. So you'll see the transition once it hits this frame. So what I mean is that, let's see, right now this frame, the previous frame is the 89th frame that has a keyframe set in it. So you see there's a keyframe in there. If we hit the back arrow, it should jump. Hold on one second, I made a little error. If I hit the back stepper or back jump to keyframe going back one step, it should go to the 89th keyframe. So that's within the timeline itself. So I'm using the timeline. So you'll see from the 89th keyframe, you'll see a small transition going into the 94th keyframe, leading with the step. You'll see. And it shouldn't cross the ground plane until it hits the next keyframe, and so on and so forth. So if it's going to break through the ground plane, it's going to break through on the future keyframes, not the previous ones, because I cleaned up everything behind it. You know what I'm saying? So I went in and I did these before I started this live stream. So as he's walking, as long as it doesn't have too many variations of going through the ground, up and down, bobbing, then we should be good. So I got rid of the bobbing. Like I was saying, I got rid of the bobbing mainly from the spine bone. So I went into the spine bone, selected it, pulled up the graph editor, and I flattened the curve for the spine bone. So there was a curve going up linearly, but in a curvature type of form. And I'll show you the rig that I used before I retargeted the original rig. So I'll show you the rig and I'll show you what it looks like, so you can understand the transitions of things that I've done. It took a little while to figure it out, but once I started to break it down and started to go deeper and deeper into the model, then I started to realize what I could achieve. So let's see. Hold on one second. It's taking some time because my external hard drive is starting to open up. Right now my external hard drive is timed out, and I don't know why it's off 100%. There it goes. It shouldn't be off 100%. My external hard drive tends to have some issues sometimes. So we're gonna bring in this walk cycle. This is the export that I got from Movmi. Excuse me. So I used Movmi, extracted that data, and then I went in. The data was moved over to an actual 3D model armature. So the armature slash the rig was in here. It actually is a Rigify rig that they used from Blender, and then I brought it onto Blender. I got smart after failing to retarget it properly, trying to retarget it to a human generator add-on character or human generator character. I tried to directly retarget it, but it didn't work at the first time. And then after multiple fails, I decided, let me get a Rigify rig and see if I could bring it into the Rigify rig, because the Rigify rigs, what do they call it? Rest pose is pretty much close to identical to the human generator add-on rest pose. So after I did that, I realized that I could do more to it. So this is it right here. Let me correct the origin point, which I just recently learned how to do that, which is pretty cool that I was able to figure that out. Some things are just I'm learning like at random in Blender. So what I'm doing now, I'm correcting the origin point. It took me a while to figure this out. I mean, I really wanted to correct origin points for a long time on Blender, but somehow I just figured it out by using this options thing here. You go to origins, you click and select it, and you can just drag the origin point exactly where you want. Then you just deactivate it and the origin point is corrected. And that was crazy. Now let's see, individual origins, drag them back. That was crazy. That's all I had to do after being so mystified, not knowing what to do. So I'm just trying to rotate him to get him in the same kind of position. I'm gonna scale him down a little bit. Blender shouldn't be that hard, but the reason why Blender is very complicated to most people is because, like I said, the UI is kind of crazy. So you got so much stuff going on, you have no idea what's going on when you first start. And then also Besides that, your knowledge base. So if you don't have that much knowledge in 3D and in CGI and stuff like that, and you can't match and cross-reference that knowledge to what is required to do on Blender, then you have a lot of gaps. So that knowledge gap might be huge depending on who you are. Now, if you did a lot of research, you went to school, you may not have that much of a knowledge gap, but still Blender will be kind of difficult, because for anybody it is somewhat difficult if you don't have that patience. You got to have a lot of patience, and you got to be willing to learn every little thing that's on the screen. You really got to take your time to do that. So it takes a lot of tutorials, obviously, but you can learn a lot of the stuff from using the Blender manual. So you can go into help, go to manual. I'm going to start speeding up with a lot of stuff that I'm doing, because hopefully people have caught on to what I'm saying. And if you're not watching it live, people are bound to watch this video over time, because everyone has problems with footlocking. I don't care what you say. Everyone on the planet who chooses to do animation, you're going to have to go in and clean up your data for your animations, your whatever, your FBX file, or it could be a BVH file or a GLB file, any animatable file. You're going to have to go in, maybe using Blender or some other tool, Maya or whatever, and you're going to have to clean it up if you want to present that to an audience to make it look good. Well, not to make it look good, but you want to present it to an audience, and you want to make it look good in order to present it to the audience. That's what I meant to say. So yeah, it's not easy. Definitely not easy. Very time consuming. Might take you a month if you don't know what you're doing. Now for me, hasn't taken me that long. I really did maybe take about an hour, half an hour to set everything up, and then go in and then be able to clean it up. So here goes the Blender manual. Blender 3.2 is the actual version of Blender that I'm using right now. So I highly recommend for y'all folks, if you don't know anything about Blender in general, go in here and start to go day by day. Take your time. Don't rush through it. Don't skip anything. Start with the user interface. Then go into editors. Then go into scene and objects. Then go into modeling. Now, if you don't really want to dig too much into 3D modeling, you don't really have to, because they have tools that are out here that could help you with the 3D modeling and get that thing done with a click of a button like that. But you want to somewhat understand the base of what 3D modeling is, so the basics to 3D modeling. You want to kind of understand it, because then when you got a 3D model and you have to troubleshoot and try to figure out why something's not working, if you don't know 3D modeling, then the chances is that you're going to have knowledge gaps in that arena too. And you don't want that when you're doing animation or 3D modeling, and then say the mesh of the model doesn't work, and then you see like the mesh going all over the screen and things happening that you are not aware of or you're not used to and you have no experience in. So you may not know how to fix it once it falls apart, basically, on let's say Blender or whatever tool, because sometimes things are not going to work, because this is computers. Obviously, this is not the real world. This is not like you doing a sculpture and the nose fell off and you got the nose in your hand, you could just paste it back on. No, it's not like that. So if it falls apart digitally, how do you revive it? How do you bring it back to its normal structure? How do you make it work in conjunction with what you want it to do? So that's why you want to learn some of this stuff. You know, you want to go into it. And then you don't have to learn grease pencil. That's more for 2D animators. But if you want to get into that, go ahead, go for it. I haven't learned grease pencil yet. I don't want to become a 2D animator, but in the future, maybe I'll make the time for it. But I don't really have the time for it. I want to really master 3D, and then eventually I'll move into the 2D arena, maybe, depending on what I want to create. We got animation and rigging. They got physics, rendering. These three topics are pretty strong. Physics, I'm not really into it too much, but I want to get into it. But it's not required to really learn to understand the basics of 3D animation and 3D modeling. This is more of like an advanced topic once you become solid with Blender. You got the basics of the navigation of Blender, things like that. You busted out the knowledge on the UI, and you pretty much can move and get through most of the easy things on Blender. So once you're ready, you got all this basic stuff down. Now animation and rigging. Now rigging, you want to understand the basics to rigging, but you don't have to know how to rig a character to get your animations up and running. But it's good to know rigging to some degree on Blender, because if you understand some of the basics to rigging as well, you can do some troubleshooting while you notice your rig is not working, or your armature. What a rig is pretty much 3D bones. So the armature starts out with one bone. It can be one bone, or it could be multiple bones. And a rig could be a collection of bones. And you're going to have an advanced armature that basically is controlling all the bones. So why do you want to have a rig, and what is a rig for? Well, any animation, 1D, 2D, 3D, whatever dimension you have it in, it requires digital bones if you're doing it on a CGI type of format. So computer generated imagery, basically. So that's what it is. It's moving images. You're moving image files. That's what 3D animation is. Most people don't know that, but it's actually image files. So whoever is the one that, with their infinite wisdom, created this process, you got to give them credit, because how would you create a system on a computer that can control images and make images move how you want them to move? Well, I don't know. They came up with it. It's really unique, and they've made it so that you can create a 3D version of an image file, pretty much. And the reason why I know that is because when you're going to try to render, which I'll show y'all folks, when you're going in to try to render, guess what you're trying to render? They're all image files. Sorry, my throat is kind of dry. They're all image files. These are image files. So CGI, what is that? Computer generated images or imagery. That's all it is. So you go in and you manipulate the imagery. That's what video games is too, which people don't realize is just image data, and it's manipulated on a high scale. So they manipulate the graphics. So they take pixels and then manipulate the pixels in the screen and program the pixels to move in certain formats and certain orientations on the screen. So they get to the point where they can create backgrounds that look really, really unique and high quality. And what a rendering process is the ability to send that data to the screen in the exact positions you want and how photorealistic you want it to look and appeal. So you go in, a render engine basically takes the pixels and produces it on the screen at a certain level and scale of quality that the individual who chose to render it set it at. So we can go in and we can set a render to have a certain level and scale of quality. See that? Look at that. It's moving around. So that's basic animation right there. So if you understand that part, then you can start to really build out on Blender, and you'll start to go further. Now the whole footlocking issue, you got to think about that as well. What really is it? Well, it's an unstable imagery. It's unstable image, an image that's jumping up and down, moving back and forth, bobbing in and out. It could be weaving, going side to side. Depends on what you're doing, or what the more of the 3D animator has done to the animation, or it depends on what the motion capture file, how the data was transferred, how stable the person / the performer in the viewport of the, maybe it's a webcam or it's a video camera. So if you're standing and you're moving side to side, swaying side to side, once that data is extracted, it's going to be much more janky and much more jumpy than a person standing still as they possibly can. But it's impossible for a human being to stand still when you really think of it, because we all sway microns of directions back and forth. It's very small, minute sways, but It's impossible to stand still when you think about it, or even sit still, because you're breathing. So when you're breathing, your body is moving. You're not dead, obviously, so your body's moving to some degree. And this is what the video camera is picking up. So all of that janky stuff tends to be unstable breathing for the most part, and a sway from one direction to the other direction, left to right. So the performer really has to be still as possible when they perform. And they have to be they have to acknowledge the fact that they're being recorded by something that can really sense their motion on a high scale. So if you understand that part, when your performance is being set up, then your motion capture data should actually come out a little bit more stable. Now, if you're a computer or / a robot, you're going to be still as freak, because robots can make themselves in static motion where they're not moving side to side, forward or backward. And it's like, in a computer, basically. Like, this thing is not moving left, right, up and down. It's not going anywhere currently. So if you're a robot, obviously you could be like the best type of performer. But who wants to be robotic? Who really wants a human being to look robotic when it comes to animation? No, we don't want robotic animation, obviously. We want a human to look like a human movement. So to correct a lot of it, you have to go in off of the graph editor. And what the graph editor does is you see all of this stuff? This is all unstable swaying, up and down, bobbing and weaving. All of these graphs, and what you're seeing is all the graphs of every single bone orientation all at once. Reason being is because I'm selected on all the bones. So we're in the object mode, so let's go down to pose mode. When you go to pose mode, you can isolate the bones, and how you do that is you can use the left area of the graph editor, and you can open up exactly what you want to open up. But currently all the bones are selected. You see how it's highlighted in blue? So when you're selecting on everything, it could be confusing. It will confuse anybody to look at all of this. This looks like spaghetti or some craziness, maybe like centipedes going all over the screen. So you don't really want to do it that way. It's smarter, much smarter, to just isolate one bone. So you select one bone and look what it does. It reduces the chaos down to a bare minimum. So you're still seeing some of it, not all of it, but you're also realizing, look at this one. What the freak is this? All the way up at the top, just one single. They call these keyframes, I believe. So these little dots are keyframes, and the curves are known as F curves, also short for frame curves. So I learned that recently as well. I learned that about 2 or 3 days ago, reading into the Blender manual. So you want to isolate, obviously. So once you learn how to isolate the F curves, then you can go in and dig a little bit deeper over here to the left. So I just chose the spine, right? So the spine has location, has rotation, and has scale. So you have to know exactly which orientation you want to play with. Now the reason why I brought this model in is because I wanted you to see the ground plane at the point in reference of the 94th keyframe. And I wanted you to see what it does, because if you look at both, you'll start to see a resemblance of the position. But then I'm going to show you the difference between the graph editor and from one to the other. So if you look at this one, we're at the 94th keyframe. See how the timeline is here, 94, and on the bottom it's at 94. Pretty much it's the same thing. We can move it over, or we can move this one over. Let's move it over to the center so you can see it. So we're at the 94th keyframe. When you're dealing with the graph editor, it's also based on where the timeline is. So if you try to manipulate something over here, say all the way to the right of the timeline or to the left of the timeline, you won't really see the change in what it's going to do on the screen, what it's going to do to the image. Now, the bones are not the image itself, obviously. The image is constructed over the 3D model. So they have all the imagery constructed over the 3D model, and that imagery is what's going to be rendered out. So you have to think about that while you're doing this. You have to say to yourself, where do you want the imagery to be placed? So what's responsible for the placement of the imagery in the render is the actual bones. So it's the armature. So the armature is placing the imagery where you want it to be within respect to the full scene that you're actually rendering at that moment in time. So if you're rendering a certain portion of the screen, per se, say I'm rendering just the feet, right? Let's move this down. So say this is my moment in time that I want to render, or should I say frame, keyframe. So with respect to, you know, what you're trying to create at that moment, the image of the, say, the shoes, this is the imagery of the shoes and the slacks of the pants or whatever. These bones are controlling it at that very moment in time. So you have to think along the lines of, what do I want it to do? Do I want it to be more still? Do I want it to go left? Do I want it to go right? Do I want it to go up? Do I want it to go down? Do I want to isolate that motion so that it doesn't look so crazy? You know what I'm saying? So the image won't look like it's going crazy, up and down, side to side, left to right. So that's the mindset that you have to have, you know, in order to correct certain things. Hold on one second. Let's get the 3D cursor over here. Hold on. And we're gonna move. Let me go out real quick. I'm gonna move the object closer. When I say object, I mean the rig object. All right, so what I want you to see is the differential. So you see all of this spaghetti looking stuff. We're gonna go out and select the other rig. So now I'm selected on the one that I just brought in, which is, I would call this the dirty rig. This is the dirty rig, and this is the clean rig. Now look at the difference. And we're not selected on the spine here, so let me go into pose mode. I mean, we are, hold on, we are selected on the spine, I think. Let me see. Let me scroll down a little bit. Oh, okay, so yeah, we selected on the spine. And hold on one second. Bring the graph editor down a little bit. And so let's switch over to the other one. Gotta go to object mode. Okay, there we go. And this one, I don't think we're selected on the spine. I'm not sure. Nope, we're selected on this leg. So let's go to the spine. Yeah, there we go. So look at the difference of the graphs. Now this graph is spaghetti. It's crazy. Everything's everywhere, right? And look at this one. Super clean. See what I'm saying? So what you can do is exactly that. You go in and you start to work on it. But let's see what it looks like. We're going to hit the play. Hold on one second. See what it's doing. Okay, I know why it's doing that. Because somehow I edited out the motion. because I moved it, I got edits. So I'm going to delete this one. I'm going to bring in another one. And let's see if I could bring it exactly where the 3 cursor is. It may not work. So we're going to bring in another one. I forgot to take off automatic keyframe. So hold on one second. We'll bring in another one. Let's see where it is. Okay, it's right there. We'll fix the origin point. Okay, and we'll take that one and throw it to the center. Let's rotate it a little bit. And then Shift S, selection to cursor, keep offset. Oh shoot, it didn't go. Alright, that's all good. Let's move on to individual origin. Slide it down. Slide it down. Move it above the ground plane. And rotate. Okay. So it's pretty much in the same kind of orientation. Hold on one second. Alright. So the reason why I had to do that. Oh shoot, I did it again. Look at that. Hold on. I'm doing it again. Let me go back. My bad. I keep forgetting to take off the what do they call it? Automatic keyframe. Let's see. Okay. Take off the automatic keyframe. Let me just pull this all the way up over here first. Rotate them. But I'm going to move the origin before I rotate because that's just a pain in the butt. Alright. I'm doing this live, by the way, folks, so bear with me if you're watching because nothing's exact. You're going to have trial and error. This is the kind of trial and error that I have to go through day to day. Oops. Messing up the rotation on the origin point. My bad. When you're doing 3D animation and modeling, you're going to go through a lot of trial and error. For sure. Alright, so that's that. Let's move it up. Okay. And we're going to move it a little bit over to the side. Alright. So we got that out the way. We got him without having any other moves going on. Let's put the timeline in the 94th position. And what in the world just happened? Let's back him up. Okay, so the orientation, I see what's going on. Alright, let's move him over here. That's because the playhead was somewhere in the far out position. So we want to orient him first in the initial conditions of where we want to move him at. Come on, what is going on? What in the world? Hold on one second. Individual origins. What? Origin point. How did the origin point change? That's the first thing. I don't know what just happened. Alright. How did that even change? Here we go. Alright, we got this back. And we want to get it to the 94th, right? 94. So now it should go out of the screen. And it should have followed it. Why didn't it follow it? What in the world? I'm somewhat confused of why it's not rotating and going straight. Alright, whatever. What we'll do is try to get him, because that's not working the way it's supposed to work. We'll try to get him to rotate instead. Let's do that. We'll rotate him this way and then correct everything, so on and so forth. I don't know why that was happening. Let's put him like that. Wow. For some reason it's not, they both are not orienting the way that they could be oriented. They're going in opposite directions, almost. That's very odd. I don't understand why it's doing that. Hold on, let's go origin, go back, and let's rotate the origin point. No, this one's origin point. Let's see now. How about we turn it this way to the Y direction? Let's see. There we go. Alright, so orienting the origin point off of a rotation, so to speak, is seeming to correct it. Hold on one second. There we go. Alright, so it's the origin point. Let's get rid of that. Let's move this bad boy over. Hit the play. I gotta change the origin point again. Okay. Let's move him back this way. Obviously, I don't know that much about the origins, so that's why it's acting different. Alright, there we go. So now we're somewhat where we wanted it to be. Let's go to 94. Here we go. Now at 94, let's move this one up a little bit. So hopefully that I can work that with the origin point. Move it up out of the ground plane. Hit the play. Let's see what happens if I move them up. It's probably gonna bounce right back to the yep, it bounced right back in there. See that? That's weird. How about we move this up? Let's see. Nope, it goes the opposite direction, so I have to move it down to get it to go up. Yep, that's weird. Very bizarre. Alright. Let's go up a little bit. It's going to move it down. I'm just trying to get it on the ground plane area so you can see the differential. There we go. Alright, so we're getting very close to what I want it to look like to show y'all folks. Alright, so 94. Boom. So you'll get to see the motion is very unstable compared to the other one. So as you can see, it goes up. Looks like it's not even touching, and then it goes through. You see how it went through? Hold on one second. Let's go back. I'm going to zoom in close. Now this one is going through, obviously, because I didn't fix that part of the ground plane. But I fixed stuff back here. You'll see. Doesn't go through the ground. Maybe a little bit right there. I have to fix that too. See that little part right there? But that's not too bad. And right there around 100, I gotta fix that. Alright. But let's hit the play button so you can see this one go through really crazy. See how low it steps through the ground? And it's very high up here, and then steps through somewhere over there. So pretty much I'm just showing y'all folks how unstable this one is in comparison to this one. But actually I still have to do more corrections, but I'm gonna go in and do more. See how further back we can get it. Let's go all the way to 0 and follow the motion. Okay. I don't know if I messed up somehow the origin of this one because I was playing around with origins. Let's see. Yeah, it looks good, but it's still going through the ground plane. I don't know what I did here. Let's see. I was correcting some of the toe movement. Let's see. That one I didn't really see. Hold on one second. Let's bring this back in. Back that up. Yeah, I corrected that one right there. So I did manual corrections. Let's see if this is corrected. Yep, that's corrected. This is not corrected here. So to fix that, let me go in and try to orient this bad boy. Alright, because everything is flat already. I have the whole entire area of rotations, locations, whatever I needed to make flat from the other rig, from the dirty rig. This rig is clean, it's more cleaner. So that's why I can rotate these particular bones. I can go in and rotate the foot bone and the toe bone in order to create that walk cycle to make it look more accurate. So every single time I move, it moves in a certain position. I have automatic keyframing, which I did not have it on right at that point, but I have automatic keyframing that could work and correct that particular position, as long as it's not too high off the ground. Because with walking, it's not going to be 100%. Like every single move is not going to be 100% when you're walking on the ground. Sometimes one foot is up higher than the other, or one portion of the leg is up higher than the other when you're walking, depending on what you're walking on. It could be like a unstable surface or whatever the case may be. So don't worry about it being 100% accurate. I mean, it is going to bob up and down. The actual body of the person is going to bob up and down. So don't worry about the body bobbing up and down. You want to worry more about the foot bobbing up and down through the ground plane. So you don't want that to be a big issue. So let's see. Let's keep going through. See right there, it cut through the ground. So where it cut through the ground, we want to bring that up. Boom. And automatically create a keyframe there. So you go back just a little bit. Wherever it's cutting through the ground, you want to bring it up. You can also use the arrow keys on your keyboard to correct that part. And when you slightly move it up and you see these up and down arrows when you're trying to make a rotation, you can use the arrow keys as well to make minor adjustments, fine-tuned. That's what I'm doing right there. So there's many different ways to fix it. So now you just scrub through to see if it's cutting the ground plane. Like I said, make sure you go in and you edit out using the graph editor. If y'all folks don't know how to do the proportional editing, or say you don't know how to use the graph editor to do any editing in general, I'm gonna make a separate video for that, so folks can focus on that and they can double back between this type of live stream how to for footlocking and the editing portion. I'm also going to show you the editing portion towards the tail end of this video. I'm just giving y'all folks, for those who already know how to do this stuff, a more fine-tuned way to do it. Like, you just have to go in and literally hand animate the rotations of different joints, and with respect to the foot. So you're gonna have to do that across the whole length of all of the walk cycles. So don't plan too many walk cycles if that's the case when you're trying to create a lot of animation. I mean, when you think about film and movies, how much walking is involved, or how much running is involved. Now, if you have an action film, obviously it's going to be a lot of running. So in the planning phases of your film, you probably want to kind of not plan too much walking and not too much running type of thing, and kind of mix it up. So that way you don't have to go crazy with all of these scenes of, you know, having to correct the foot locking too much. That's what I recommend. Now, in this case, you see where the ground plane is broke way too far for a rotation to correct. So what you would have to do with that is move the whole entire body up. So that's what I was talking about in terms of the body. So we go to object mode, and that's when I'm gonna use the move up option. So I'm gonna move them up just a little bit, like right there. Hold on. So what that's gonna do, the body's gonna look like it's going up at that point. But that's not a big problem, because the rest of the body on the other positions was fine. Now, if you don't have too much of a transition between the body going up and down through the other points, when the automatic keyframes are trying to insert themselves, it will cause a huge transition. So you have to look back and scrub back and see what the body did back here, because it might cause you issues. Look, the whole body's up in the air now. See, so you have to go back and then try to correct certain points. So you just go back and forth, scrubbing through to see if you messed anything up. What the freak just happened there? Looked like it froze. It did freeze. What in the world just happened? Whoa. For a second I got no motion. I don't know why that happened. Alright, so I'm walking through. Let's see. Is this guy gonna make a step? Okay, right there. So at that instance, you can take that rotation up. So I'm gonna go and rotate the foot up a little bit. Make sure you're on the right direction. That isn't the right direction. Somehow the orientation seems to have changed. Let me see. Yeah, the orientation is different. I want to line up with this bone. So let's see. Is it normal? Yeah, along the normal, I think. Or no. Is it local? Gimbal. Hold on one second. View. Something's going on with the orientation. Wow. Of my axes. This cursor, view, gimbal. Let's try the gimbal. And for some reason it's not rotating. Alright, that's not too bad. I can use that position, but I have to remember that I switched it. Okay. Alright, hold on one second. I just want to bring this up. And what we're pivoting on is individual origin. So here goes your pivoting tool here. Make sure you always select the right one that you want. Individual origin means it's rotating on the origin point of that bone. If you try to rotate around the 3D cursor, it's going to create more of a rotation that is based on a way different position on the screen. So you're not going to get the correct rotation. So make sure you have the pivoting right, and the bone is going at least along the line of the bone itself. It's rotating along its own axis. You don't want it to be rotating in a different axis, and then it creates more like an angle move. One of the other things, you could orient it going in this direction, so like tweaking it where the foot is moving side to side. Like, see how this one is swaying a little bit due to the leg. The leg looks like it's in an incorrect sway. So this leg is not correct, obviously. So you would have to fix that orientation and then scrub through the timeline to correct the other orientations. Let's see. So where's the timeline at? Actually, let's move this over. So here we're creating keyframes. So let's go back, see where the bone moves there. So we'll reorient that one to correct that one. You don't have to do it for every keyframe. You can go in and delete some of the keyframes in between, depending on where the motion was moving, how extreme the issue is. If it's a bad issue or not, or a good issue. So that's because the rig didn't have really good orientation to begin with on the leg. So the rig was really out of whack, because the motion data is not 100% correct. It's not 100% accurate. So you might want to check the legs and fix the leg orientations first before you go in and clean everything up. So you make the leg orientations exactly the way you want it. It takes time. I'm telling you, it's going to take time for everything to turn out the way you want it to look. So here we go. We're going to scrub through and see if that corrected it. Well, we have a little issue here where it moves side by side. Like, see how it swings? So what I'm going to do is, I don't know if this position is that big of a swing, but I'm going to delete those three in between and then check to see the swing. One thing I like to do with deleting keyframes, it allows me to really see what I can create. So I can go in, and what happens in between I don't worry about, because I got the previous keyframe. So it's basically going to transition from one point to the other and show not so much of a harsh transition like that. See how that transition is so sharp and it looked like the leg broke or something? Look like when you're playing maybe basketball or something like that and your leg just goes and tweaks out of position. So with that, I'm going to get rid of all these keyframes. Hold on one second. I had made an error there. Here we go. What am I doing? Somehow I made all the keyframes jump. I'll learn how to use this thing in terms of making the keyframes jump from one place to another. I didn't even know you can do that. So where did the keyframes go? What just happened? There they are. Somehow they hid. You can make the keyframes go down. Okay. Or up. So here we go. We're going to delete everything except the last keyframe. And let's see the sway of the leg go back. So hold on, let's rotate, and you'll see it's going to slowly transition in to that angle. So then if you want to correct it, you just correct the last keyframe and then create multiple keyframes in between. So that way it doesn't have that jump of it looking like a knee break. Now watch this. We go back, and it's going to be more of a natural transition, and then go back into its normal movement. Okay, so if you want to build more keyframes in here, which is not really necessary, you can build small transitions, but you also have to check what's the full transition. Where did it move all the way through? Because if you create slight changes and they don't equate to the full distance of where that angle rotated, it's not going to make sense. Now this position is not too good, the gimbal. Let's go to global, local, normal. For some reason the orientation is so screwed up. I don't know what happened to this rig and why the bones are not on the correct axes. Wow, that's weird, very weird. Let's go to origin. Where's the origin at anyway? The origin's all the way back here. So yeah, I'm not gonna play with the origin. I'm not worried about it. Alright, so hopefully I fixed that to some degree, and I can get better foot connecting to the ground. Alright, so let's go. I'm not even gonna put anything in between those keyframes. I'm not worried about it. So let's look and see what we got so far. The first keyframe, I want to fix this bone here. So we're going to go to pose mode and then fix the toe. And like I said, it's not in the most accurate position, but I'll just eye it and see what I can get. So where it touches the ground plane, that's not bad. And we'll get a little slight rotation so it's more stable on this axis. Okay. And we could probably put them on the ground. Yeah. So I'm going to go to object mode, and we're going to move it down to put them on the ground. There we go. Yep, so that's good. That's contact. At least he got that kind of contact. And we'll go back to pose mode, and then we'll move forward to the future keyframes. So let's see. So he cuts the ground plane here, and at that point we want to rotate, but not just rotate. Hold on, let's go back. Sorry about that. We want to move it up again. So we move it up at the deepest point, which is here, the deepest point that it digs into the ground. So go back to object and move it up a little bit, not too much, and then go back to pose mode and rotate that toe. So I'm telling y'all folks, it takes this much effort to really get something that you need. All right, boom. So that's showing that his progression from one position to the next is leaning forward, where the toe starts to lift up from the 0 frame to the 4th frame. So if you look at that isolation, this is the 1st frame. The 0 frame doesn't count. Let's go into the 0 frame. Hold on one second. I want to delete all that because that could be confusing to some people. So let's clean up that beginner 0 frame. It shouldn't have a keyframe in there. So there we go. We're going to delete that. Boom. So it starts at the 1st frame. Won't go back any further. There we go. All right. So from there, let's move them back so you can see it transitioning. That looks good. He goes up. We got to fix this one too. So this one needs to be corrected. So let's back it up. Looks like that's the deepest right there. So we'll take this, rotate it up. Boom. See how it threw this this key right here, this keyframe into the graph editor as soon as I did that rotation. Now let's see what it does if we drag it to the next keyframe. Breaks through. So we're gonna move it up where it taps. Here goes the next keyframe in the graph editor. See? So slowly but surely you'll get exactly what you want at each instance. Hold on one second. I gotta zoom in closer just to see where it taps and touches, and that just looks good. It's touching the ground plane, basically making contact. As long as it looks like it makes contact, it's going to show decent foot locking. Now another thing I noticed is the knee is bent out of shape. See that? So the leg obviously has issues. See how it looks so unstable? This is the graph for the leg. I don't know. I think this leg up here is a problem too. So this leg starts the problem because it's going inward. You got legs going inward. You shouldn't have a walk cycle like that. So we're gonna move the leg outward on one end and the other end. So there, and we're gonna fix it here too. So we have to build off of both of these. He looked pigeon-toed or something. So that's on the 23rd frame. Let's see what happens in 22. Same kind of thing. So we kind of want to build off of this frame. So actually on that rotation, I can fix that through the graph editor better. Let's go edit, undo, because the graph editor is going to correct all of those positional orientations without me having to go and fix every single keyframe. That's why you need the graph editor pretty much. So what I'm going to do, this is the part where you can learn about the graph editor. I'm going to go in and isolate just this rotation. So I have to figure out which rotation it is. So we're going to shut off everything else. The scale we're going to shut off, and the location we're going to shut off. And we're going to figure out what's responsible for that rotation. So let's do X first in the graph. And I don't think these are the graphs because nothing's going away. So this is for the full object itself. So we're going to hide that one. And we're going to bring up, let's just hide the full object. We're going to bring up the thigh. So it's the thigh that we actually moving. So we're going to hide the X and then hide, well, XYZ of the scale. And then we're going to hide the locations. That's what we want to hide. And just bring up these rotations. So out of the rotations, these are the graphs that we have available. 1, 2, 3, and there should be a fourth one. Okay, the fourth one is all the way at the top. So this one looks pretty pretty stable. Do we want the graphs to be smooth? Hells yeah. We want all of this to be smooth out. So we can highlight this one. And what I'll do is use the alternate and 0 key on the keyboard multiple times. Try to straighten out that graph. That way it's not janky and unstable. So that one is as straight as I can make it. And then all of these right here, they look like they clean to some degree. It doesn't look too crazy. So I may not actually mess with it too much. Maybe alternate one time. That's it. Okay. So now I want to move and isolate one particular orientation. So let's wipe out everything but, let's start with the Z. Everything but the Z. So you uncheck these little eyes and everything goes away. So now I can move just the Z. As long as you highlight it on the Z itself where it has this title, Quaternion rotation, you can move the whole entire thing once you grab a node. Look at that. It allows it to swing, and that's the actual one that we wanted to fix. See, so it's swinging it, and I want to try to get it straight. So, hey baby. So that's good. So that is the correct orientation. That's the correct axes. That's what I meant to say. So let's try the other one. Correct that one, and then we should be good. Go to thigh L. Get rid of all those. And just highlight this one. So see how this one's so out of order? So we're going to use the A key to select all, and we're going to do alternate 0, maybe 3 times. Now that looks pretty decent. That's clean enough. And then to correct the orientation, it doesn't look like it needs too much of an orientation correction, but I'm gonna just move it a little bit on the outside, so it's like both are bowing a little bit outward, slightly. So now we're gonna work on these legs here. We already know pretty much it's the Z, so we're gonna unselect everything else except for the Z. We're going to do the same thing. A key to select all, alternate 0 for proportional editing, just to edit out some of it. And then we're going to grab a node and go one direction or the other. And it looks like a rotation axis needs to be corrected as well for probably the X axis. So let's try that. This curve looks pretty decent, so I'm not really worried about the curve too much. Oh, I have to use the Shift A or use the A key on the keyboard to select all before I do it. Nope, that's not the orientation, so it's the y-axis. Alright, this one looks pretty decent as well. So we're going to rotate it just slightly like that. There we go. So that one's corrected pretty much. That's good. So I fixed all of the keyframes all at once using the graph editor, so I don't have to go hand pick and select each keyframe. So that's how you fix and correct that distorted pigeon walk or whatever. And I think I'm gonna do a separate video on that because people may not pick up this video for footlocking to correct, a pigeon toe type of error or something like that. Or it could help somebody to create pigeon toe character issue. So it's up to you what you want to do. We're gonna edit out that a little bit. Did a proportional editing on that, just a slight bit, alternate 0. And then we're going to fix this rotation just a little bit, little inward, so it turns a little bit, the back heel turned in a little. And then I'm gonna go to the thigh. No, I already corrected the thigh. I have to go to the Z axis. There we go. It's really important to know what axes you're on and which one you're trying to correct. To understand that, obviously it just takes time to figure out which axes is what. Alternate 0 twice. That's good. Looks pretty clean. And you don't want to sway this over because it's not going to fix everything that way. You want to go in and sway this over like so, and that should correct that. So now let's see the walk cycle real quick. That looks a lot better. One thing I notice is this right here. Let's see. There we go. Let's try that. That's the graph. Okay, I see what's going on with this one. Yeah, we don't want all of this craziness. So the reason why it's swaying is the graph. You see how it goes up and down? So alternate 0, we're gonna clean all of that up. We don't want to swing like that crazy. Alright, so let's go back. Okay. Whoa. This one's bowing out. Yeah, that's crazy. Alternate 0 multiple times. We're gonna correct that. Alright, let's see. Alright, that's good. Now we're gonna fix this one. Let's see. Alright, we're gonna alternate 0. Bring this one down. And let's see, the Z. Bring this down a little bit. Alright, let's play. The reason why I'm correcting this stuff is because the foot locking issues will stand out if you have your feet and your legs orienting in all discombobulated ways. So it's going to be even harder to get the feet to be in a more accurate positions and zones. So keep that in mind. You want to go in and dig and fix a lot of these issues. Find out what's going on. Ooh, that X looks crazy. So let's see the X issues, what it creates. Oh, okay, I see what those are. Those are when every time he comes, it's gonna kick back. Those are just kickbacks. So we can correct some of this stuff too. We want this, when it does that, to swing forward more. So, like swing a little bit more forward before it lands. Something like that. So let's see. Yeah. See right there, it should have swung forward like that. Let's see. There we go. So this is the kind of stuff that you can do and just individually go in and correct certain things. Especially if you don't have too many keyframes in between. Alright. So once you start doing your footlocking cleanup, see, this one's not good. That orientation is most definitely not good. That's because of this graph. So alternate 0. Let's fix that. Yeah, that is really bad, because the foot is going to be out of whack if that's the case. Actually, we can delete all these keyframes and just make this linear if we wanted to. But when the foot is moving back and forth, sometimes you want a slight unnatural move, so that it looks more realistic instead of robotic. So that's why you want to keep some of it. Alright, we got that. What else we're gonna do here? So let's go all the way back to the beginning and see. So it takes layers of refinement in many different orientations and directions to really fix everything that you want to fix. So now that we got that oriented correctly, now we have to work on this again. So starting out, as you see, his foot isn't flat on the surface. So we want to work on this orientation. Boom. And the beginning portion, orientation. Boom. There we go. We got that side of the foot working. Now we got to work on this side. All right. Pull this up a little bit. Hey, babe. I put it in the sink.
There's 2 bowls.
Oh, okay.
Hey.
All right, let's see what else we got going here. Mm. Okay, that's good. Let's see what else we're doing here. Uh-oh. Where'd he go? I don't know why that happened. Okay, there we go. That's that. Let's move this up a little bit. That's not a bad transition. But that's a bad orientation. So let's rotate that bad boy just a little bit. And move this up a little bit. Boom. Alright. So that's not a bad transition actually. Let's see what it does. That's a bad orientation. So we rotate that one a little. Yeah. And move this one up. Boom. Another bad orientation. It's jumping too fast, so I'm gonna have to do manual orientation probably. No, that's good. I got that. Okay. That's cutting through. I'll use manual orientation. Just move it up a little bit and then up arrow. Boom. Alright. That's cutting through. Up arrow. Boom. So I'm basically sweeping back and forth, cleaning every single part of the surface. Alright, he dipped through. See that one. So we're gonna rotate that up. I don't know why I didn't catch that. Boom. At the 68th keyframe, he cut through the surface. Let's see. Well, that's not good. It looks like he's floating. So I definitely got to bring it down and rotate a little bit. So I may have to clean up like a bunch of keyframes in between. There we go. It's floating there too. Okay, that looks good. That looks good. Let's see. That looks good. And everything looks good so far from 0 going. Oh, hold on, right here. what happened with this one. Let's get the toe up there. So that's more of an angle for a toe. Okay. We're going to do individual slides of the keyframe. So I'm going to use the forward key on the keyboard for each individual keyframe and just show the toe bend as it moves forward. What? Sorry about that, folks. I'm gonna have to edit that out. My keyboard and my microphone fell because I was kind of leaning on it too much. Hold on 1 second. Just have to do a little adjustment. So I got two different computers in this one position, and my room is small, so my room office is kind of small. So that's the reason why that happened. Actually, the keyboard fell first, but it was the stand for the keyboard that kind of fell. Alright, so let me just correct this orientation. You can tell that this one is not oriented properly. Oh, I'm on the toe, my bad. Gotta orient the foot a little bit. And I think that somewhat corrected it. Hold on. For some reason it's not orienting good. I think that's it right there. Let me see. Yeah, that's not bad. Alright. So by the way, if you're trying to do this footlocking stuff, you just have to throw in a ground plane. I threw in a plane. Go to object mode, add, go to mesh, and go to plane. Because when Blender starts, it doesn't have a ground plane, so you have to put the ground plane in. The thing with the ground plane is that it's a basic plane of a 3D model, plane pretty much, but it sets itself in the origin point of the the actual virtual plane and ground of the Blender viewport. So it simulates as if it's a ground. That's how the developers set it up. So you don't want to move it anywhere up or down, meaning you don't want to use the move tool and move the ground plane up or down like so. Hold on 1 second. Let's go back to yeah, we're in object mode. There we go. So you don't want to move the ground plane itself, because by moving the ground plane it takes it out of the default reference for the ground, and then it won't be positioned correctly so that you can create a ground surface for your model. Your model will 9 times out of 10 be positioned on the virtual ground starting out by default as well. Now, if the animations that's built into it through your motion capture file is so messed up that it doesn't stay linear and doesn't stay on the ground, then that's how you can see all the inconsistencies. So you don't want to move the ground plane to correct anything. You want to move the model itself and the model's rig and different bones and stuff like you see in me do. Or else you may go far off in the wrong direction with your corrective measures. Alright, so that's good. Scrub back. Now that isn't good, what you saw there. So we're gonna bring toe up a little bit and the foot up a little more here. Let me scrub through one keyframe. That's not too bad. It didn't cut too much, but there it cut a lot. through the ground plane. And there it didn't. See, so now it's functioning how it's supposed to look. I'm just using the forward key on the keyboard. Now if you notice, he's floating in the air. See right there, this leg is floating. So when that leg seems to be floating, that's when we want to bring the whole entire object down. So let's see where it starts floating. This is when it touches. So in that transition point right there, you want to move the object down. So you go to the object and start moving it down. So we're going to move this back down to the ground plane. And hold on one second, let me back that up. There we go. Alright, so what we're going to do is correct the toe there, because it's the toe bending that's supposed to be corrected, not the other foot, because the other foot is up too high. See, this foot is up too high for it to hit the ground. So if you bring it down, this is going to cut through the surface. So what you want to do in that instance is the lower foot, you got to correct the toe. So we're going to correct the toe first. Hold on, we got to go to pose mode. Correct the toe. And then move it down slightly. So we go back to object mode. Let's put the 3D cursor over here and then pivot around the 3D cursor so I can do it easier. Boom. Back to pose mode. We're going to move forward 1. See, it's still not on the floor. This is not on the floor yet, so you still got to work with the toe. So you go up, move it down so that it touches the ground plane. And this is going to create the illusion that the head is going up and down instead of the foot. So let's go back and see if that worked. Back and forward, off of the timeline. I'm going to the 32nd frame to the 33rd frame just to see if that transition worked. Now this didn't work, so we're going to move this back up. So let's go, we're in object mode, we're going to move this up. Oops. We have to move it up. Let's move it up to correct the transition of the keyframes, because the keyframes are pre-programmed to be in certain positions. So if you change one in the forward portion of the keyframes, you got to go back maybe 2 to 5 keyframes to make sure that those keyframes are not transitioning too far out, because that's what happens on Blender. From one keyframe to the next is going to transition out or in. That's why it's hard to fix certain things. So now you see it fixed it. I corrected that. Boom. So 5 keyframes out, I'm good. As long as you corrected the 2 to 5 keyframes out, then you can keep going on and committing to fixing the other parts. So at this point, it looks like it's about to hit the surface. So this looks like it should be on the ground plane, and this should be leaving the ground plane. So we're gonna go back into pose mode. We're gonna rotate it so that it fits about the same distance that this should be hitting, and then we're gonna move the body down again. So let's go down, and it should move everything down to the ground plane. Bam. So now once this starts to leave, this is gonna basically be resting on the ground plane. So let's go forward one more time. Bam. See, at that very moment is when it transitioned from the floor to the floor. From the right leg transitioned over, and now the right foot is up in the air and now the left foot is down on the ground. That's a great way to make that transition. So now what I have to do is correct the locking down on this part. So we're over here breaking through the floor. See that? So now I got to correct the toe. Either the toe or the foot. It looks more like the foot because if we move the toe, is not going to really cut that great. But let's see. See, it's not fixing it. So let's right click, go back, and we're going to do the foot adjustment. That's good. Alright, so we're going to go one frame forward. Make sure you know what direction you're going, by the way, because then if you correct one direction and then you go back too far, or vice versa, you may screw up whatever you was working on. That looks good. Even that looks good, but now I'm going to work on the toe. Let's see what the toe is doing. Alright, that's not bad. You can do that because then the toe has to arc once the foot is moving. See, the toe is going to arc at that point. It looks like it's touching the ground, right? So that's not bad. I'm not really having to fix that. So let's keep going. Now what we notice is that it's floating again. See, it's slightly floating. So with that, that means that, hold on one second. It crossed the ground plane in this point, so that is probably the, no, it's not the toe, because the toe, if you move the toe up, it's not going to be an impression, but we could try that. Let's put the 3D cursor, let's send the 3D cursor to the toe. Shift S, cursor to selected, and we'll do it from there. Yeah, that's not bad. Sometimes a person's toe will lift up a little bit while they're walking, but we will send the whole entire body up a little slight bit to show that maybe it hit a bump or something. Boom. That shouldn't be too bad. So now let's reflect back. So we're going to go hit the back arrow a few times. Oops, that's not the back arrow, that's the forward. To reflect and see if anything's breaking through the ground plane or floating. Nope, it's good. Alright, there we go. And that looks like it's touching. Yep, that's pretty much touching. Forward, now that's floating. See that? So now what we do is we correct the foot. There we go. All right. Forward. Another correction of the foot. But actually that's not a correction of the foot, because it looks like it's touching the surface. So that's a correction of the toe. Bam. Alright, forward. Another correction of the toe. Now the toe is going to transition into controlling the leg going up. So the toe has the control of the body. It's going to look like, right? And a nice transition. Alright, so now we're going to bend the toe going up a little bit, because now the foot is down on the floor. Hold on one second, let's zoom in. All right. So everything's looking good. The only thing is that it's floating again. So that would be another transition of, let's put the 3D cursor here. Hold on 1 second. So that's a transition of, I don't know. It's just a little basic little slight adjustment. That would show that the toe is getting more strength and the back of the heel is coming up while while it plays this animation. This one's still up in the air, so we're not worried about those rotations or anything. So let's go. Let's see it leave the floor. Looks like a toe adjustment right there. Yep, touching the surface. Another one. Now that is a rotation error slightly from that. You don't want to do too much of a rotation because you don't want it to throw off and it look like it's jumping from left to right. Like you don't want the foot to rock. Like it'll look like a rock if you go too far with the rotation. If not, it'll look okay if you do very slight adjustment on that. Alright, so you never want the foot to rock as if like he's almost breaking his ankle. Yeah, right there, that's a rotation coming this way. You can see it as the foot is coming up on one side. There we go. Yep, another rotation over here. There we go. And a slight rotation over here. I'm going off the y-axis. Here we go. And another one here. There we go. And this is a big one. See how it's angled like that? Here we go. Hold on, let's back it up. I could have used the graph editor to fix all this, but I didn't feel like it. I just wanted to do it manually so y'all folks can see. Sometimes manual is better, I think. Let's bring this up. There we go. So now this other leg is, the other foot is about to land. It's going into its landing zone. Maybe I should have did the graph editor adjustment because it's a lot of keyframes that are not correct on that. That looks good. Doesn't look too bad. Just a slight adjust. Going this way. Forward. Slight adjust going this way. And for some reason now it's offset a little bit the other direction. Yep, all of that looks correct somehow. Now we got another flying zone. So I noticed that the flying stuff will tend to happen when the transition comes for the other foot to start landing. So that's where you have to work on the toe big time. So this toe right here needs to be up a little bit so it's at its flattest point that it could be. And now we have to bring the body down. So we go to, or hold on, let's not do it that way because that's going to be too far. I notice it will really offset the body too much. So, oops. Hold on 1 second. Go back to pose mode. We're going to bring it down because it's too far. And we'll have it tap. Something like that. So let's go back one. Yeah. There we go. And we'll rotate this up a little bit. And then we'll bring down the body that way. We don't want it to be too high. So now we're going to bring down the body a little bit. Like so. And then we have to go forward and back to fix that last frame. See? So now we got to fix this toe. I just went back a keyframe. Alright, so let's go back another keyframe. Fix this toe. So this is the slight adjustments that I'm doing. Shift S, cursor to selected, just to bring that cursor back. So I'm going back about 3 to 5 keyframes and forward, so I can fix the orientation so that they are adjusted to that new body move. Because now the body moves down, like I did earlier. You know, folks saw that it works. So there you go. And this is the move here that we're trying to get the adjustment for. So now we're going to match the toe to the foot's height, because it looks like it should be touching the ground right here. See? So now let's get rid of this other rig, because I pretty much got that concept of what I was explaining, all this out of control graph stuff. See all of that mess? You don't want it. So we're going to delete that, get rid of that rig. We should have got rid of that rig a while back, but it's all good. I'm not going to be exact on everything. Alright, so we also want a toe orientation correction, because you can see the toe is a little bit out of whack. And orienting a little bit like so. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at the keyframes ahead of it so I can correct all the future keyframes. So where are we at? We're at 75. It's not much future keyframes, so this is the only keyframe in the future. So let's see what the toe does. It's not much of a change. Not that drastic of a change. And plus, this foot is about to transition going up. So I'm not worried about that one for the toe and everything. So let's back it up. Alright, right there is where it should be touching the ground. So hold on 1 second. That's the toe tap, transition touch. So now we'll go out to object mode, and we're going to bring him down and have to fix the 2 keyframes back just to make that adjustment. So his tap touch will be there. That's where this makes contact and where this leaves. So we're going to go back. That's not bad. It actually looks good. Now this is where we have to fix this one. I guess we can raise the foot up a little bit so that it makes room for the toe bending. So we'll do that. So we'll fix this foot bone, move it up a little bit. I know one of the other transitions didn't look this way, but like I said, nothing is 100% with this animation stuff, so kind of like play around, go freehand with it. Alright, let's move this over. Scroll in and zoom in a little bit closer, because now we're not worried about the other foot. We're worried about this one. So we're at pose mode. Everything is good. We're going to do Shift S, cursor to selected. Bring that cursor back in. And we're going to do micro moves. So I'm using the arrow key, the up arrow key on the keyboard. Tap it once. So it's only one. Alright, there we go. That's micro moves or fine tuning. And then we're going to do forward on the keyframe. Do another micro move. Just a slight bit. Let it cut through. So it shows a little transition. And what's going on here? Oh, okay, that's the end. Is that the end? It doesn't end at 84. What is it doing? I don't know what it's doing here. Why are they both? What in the world is happening? Why is it sliding? Now this doesn't make sense. Hold on one second. It's not supposed to slide like that. Now I may get into foot sliding corrections and stuff like that as well. So I don't know why it's sliding. Okay, hold on one second. We're gonna hit the play just to see what it does here. Yeah, that's not right. Okay, so whatever it's doing there, it's not supposed to be like a slide. Like the foot is just gliding. The foot should be rotating, obviously, so I gotta really work on that. That looks terrible. Looks like it's ice skating or something. The leg is not even swinging. Like this position of the leg should be swinging at least. So maybe I did too many corrective measures on that particular leg at a certain point. Let's see. I got a lot of keyframes in there, but I have to check what I did with the graph editor. So yeah, this doesn't have much going on. So let me do some proportional editing here. Corrective editing. Let's see if I can do that. Let's look for the proportional editor. We got that here. And we're going to go up a little bit. So there goes the proportional editor. Where do I want to put it? That's the question. Hold on one second. I don't even know if this is the right one. Actually, let me fix this and find out what orientation I want to go on, because I don't think this is the correct orientation. So this is the Z. I don't want to use the Z. Let's try the Y orientation. Use the A key on the keyboard. Move it up and down. Oops, wrong one. And we're going to isolate this leg here, because we want it to actually bend going forward like this. Swing, I should say. So we're going to try to get that leg swinging, because it's not showing any movement. Hold on, let's see. Let's go forward. It should at least show a movement right at this moment, and it's not showing any movement. That's probably because I deleted these keyframes here. So deleting these keyframes caused keyframes to have issues all the way back here, which I didn't realize. So we will fix that. That looks like a dead leg. Let's see what the X does. Yep, it's the X. Okay. So that's good. Then when it gets around here is when it loses momentum. Okay. So let's see what this does here. If I try to move it down. Yep, it's right there in that zone. Okay. Let's go for proportional editing. So we're going to move this down a little bit. And use the undo because I didn't move it in the right position that I wanted it. We're gonna have to use the arrow keys on the keyboard. All right, let's go the other way. All right, and then I'm just using the left click mouse button. I depressed it, and now we're gonna see how much we can edit in. And bring it up a little bit. Oh, I didn't want that. The only thing with proportional editing is that you have to bring it all the way down to fix any slight issues with swaying it too far. Let's see. Hold on. Why is it jumping like that? It should move just a little bit. Alright, we're gonna go in and edit that out because that's just not what I wanted. I might have to do that proportional editing one more time. Okay. In order to pull it off, let's do it in slow motion. You go to the keyframe in the graph editor, isolate that keyframe, make sure you isolate the rotation or location you want, or scale, whatever, and then you slightly, after left clicking the left click mouse button, slightly move it up, down, or any direction. As soon as you see that target thing show up, then you want to do fine-tune adjustments. So you use the keys left, right, or up and down arrow on the keyboard, depress it once, and you'll see a circle that shows up. If you don't see the circle, that means that the proportional editing is too far out. So you look on the left side of the screen, middle left side of the screen, it says proportional size, and then you're going to roll your mouse scroll wheel until you see at least 0 to 1 on that number. Right now it says 0.5645. If I scroll the mouse scroll wheel while I have my left click mouse depressed, that circle is going to get smaller. See, now it went down to, it's going down to 0. So that means that the size of the proportional editor is too small to view and too small in general. It went all the way down to 0, and now I'm going to scroll it back up, and you'll see it enlarge. There it is. It's slowly but surely enlarging. So what proportional editing does mean, it means that you're going to affect a larger surface area of more like basically whatever's within the vicinity. So all the keyframes within the vicinity you're going to affect if you have a larger circle. So it's going to go within proportion. Now look at the graph. See how the graph is slightly moving? Not the graph, the leg. So I'm causing this slight movement, and that's what you want. So you want to create like a graph like that. See how these graphs are created? You want to create a curve, I meant. So a up curve or a down curve to make a slight sway in motion. So all I did was just correct something that was probably pulled out from doing too much proportional editing. You can do a large scale proportional editing without having that little circle come up, but you have to use the alternate key and press the O key on the keyboard. But that's not fine tuning. That's like mass scale proportional editing. And as you can see over here, this also popped up on the screen, so you can use this method as well, and you can adjust in whatever angle plane view that you choose. You can change the orientation as well for your I guess gimbal. I don't know what they call this, but this is like the move tool or the rotate tool, the gizmo, so to speak, or hand control handle. So you can change it. Sorry. So now the orientation is set by default on global. So it should be within the correct axes that I want it, but this one is slightly offset. I don't know why, but from the bone orientations axes. But it's okay. I'm not worried about it. And then it has proportional editing checked in here, and then it has smooth. You can also change the curve. If you don't want it smooth, you can change it to whatever you want it. But smooth is generally what it is set by default. That's the proportional fall off. And you got proportional size, and you got connected and projected 2D. I don't know about all of that. I haven't played with those things, but the proportional size is obviously what is the size of that circle. So what in that region it's gonna affect basically. So now you can also proportionally edit just a small portion of what you want to edit out. So say I just wanted to edit out just this portion of the curve. You use your left click mouse button, drag and create a box, or you can use the C key and create a circle select on the keyboard and just select just that portion and then do alternate O, and it will only correct that portion of the curve, as you see. And you can do individual moves. Well, see, the proportional editing is going to come exactly back to where it was at. Now if I use the arrow key on the keyboard, that'll work. And then if you hit the enter key while you're trying to do proportional editing, you can bring up this thing. So let's see, we're gonna do, let's go in the Z direction. And hold on, my computer is freezing a little bit because I'm trying to do something that I haven't done. So that's the Z direction. It's not really doing much. I'm gonna set it at 0. Here goes the Y direction. So the Y is actually available. Let me undo that. You can do all kinds of different things. So now let's see what it did. Let's go back and see what it did. So to check it, you're gonna go back in one keyframe or multiple keyframes and see what this new graph has in store. See, so it's getting it to show some sort of a motion rather than no motion. So now I have to create a graph here. I literally have to create keyframes if I want more stuff to happen over here. Between 120 something to 135 is no keyframes. So in order to do that, I can do it manually, or I can do it using the graph editor. So that's what I'll do with the graph editor. We're going to, let's see, I'll just put a keyframe in there randomly. We'll do pose, animation, insert keyframe, lock rod scale, and we'll just put in a bunch of keyframes along this line. We'll just keep doing lock rod scale. Or actually we should have just put rotation, because that's what we're really doing. So edit, undo, and do pose, animation, insert keyframe, rotation at each instance on the graph, and then I can manually draw out the graph if I want to, and that's going to create the motion that you want to see. Rotation, and I can highlight these and I can copy them if I want. Control C, Control V. But it will obviously be crooked, but I'm not worried about it as to where exactly it's showing up, as long as it's there. And that last one I don't want. We'll just take 2 frames. Control C, then Control V. And then we're just gonna we're gonna hand select, but we have to knock out the proportional editing first. So you just bring that circle all the way down to a bare minimum of nothing almost. And I just made an error right there. That sucked. But the proportional editing should be down to nothing at this point. So we'll just move this down, and one got absorbed into the other. Be careful, because you can mess them up. So we'll just bring all these down. And bring this down. Bring this down. And bring this down. As long as it curves downward towards what you got in there. Alright. Pose, animation, insert keyframe, rotation. Okay. So yeah, it is not too bad looking. I mean, hold on. Let's okay, I'm just doing micro tuned adjustments using the down arrow on the keyboard, because it's really slight adjusts that I have to do. Alright, so other than that, I think I got it pretty much. I'm just going to highlight these, and I'm going to do proportional editing with alternate 0 and just have a nice smooth graph. And that looks good. So let's see what it did. Let's see if it corrected the foot move. Okay. Let's hit the play. If I go to wireframe, it should go faster, But the reason why it's not going that fast is because it has like stuff built into it. Yep, there we go. Everything looks good. Nice. All right, so that was perfect. All right, so now we can just go back and correct the foot locking issue that we still have on some of the locations. And let's bring this back. So the foot is in the air, obviously there at the tail end. At the tail end, I'm not worried too much because I can just chop what I want to chop. So where it hits here, hold on one second. If it's not going straight, I will end it at that point where it starts going in the wrong direction. See that leg right there? I don't want that. So I'm going to get rid of the tail end right there. So it's going to stop moving, stop walking at this very point. And that looks like it hit the floor right there. Perfect. Just rotate this a little bit. Boom. Let's see. Almost hit the floor. Alright, so now I'm going to correct everything in between. So let's go all the way to... That was not right. All the way out. To... I think it's around here. It's when I had to start back at correcting it. So we're at 60, hit the play. I remember fixing that part. What I don't understand is why both feet are crossing or touching the floor at the same time. That's kind of odd. It shouldn't do that. But I'm not worried about it. Let's see what it does. Okay, I see what's happening. So at this point, it's somewhat confused. This should be touching by the toe, and this one should be going up in the air at some point. So we're going to rotate this bad boy to touch the floor. And we're going to lift this bad boy up in the air because this one should be up. That's the problem. So we're going to go object mode and we're going to bring them up. Let's get rid of the graph editor now. So we don't really need it right now. That's the problem. See, this one should be floating. This one should be floating. This one should be touching. See that? That's actually what's happening. Alright, let's hit the back arrow to see what that part is doing. Not the back arrow, but the yeah, I guess you can call it the back arrow on the keyboard. Let's rotate this bad boy. See where it transitions. So this one tapped and then this one's going up. Forward. Okay, and this one has to touch.
Hello.
Hey, where y'all going? I'm going to get some food.
Yeah, we're gonna go to the Malaysian cafe, and then we're also gonna go to this store called Home Goods.
Pauline's going?
Shopping day. Yeah.
Okay, I want to go too.
Oh. Can we go fix?
No, I'll drive. I'll drive my car.
We don't fix? Oh gosh. Everyone wants to go.
Should I get a muffler to delete?
Daddy, are you going?
Should I get a muffler delete?
Are you going?
A what?
A muffler delete?
What's that?
Delete my muffler?
Delete your
Like, get rid of
muffler?
it.
Why?
I want my car to be louder.
What? No, you don't. You don't want your car to be louder.
I do.
Cause that's what happened. That's what happened to Uncle Arch.
Yeah, I seen that.
No.
My car's not gonna be that loud.
That's what happened to Uncle Arch. He got pulled over. Why would you draw more attention to your car? You're gonna get pulled over. Plus you're 16. It's gonna make things even worse for you.
Alright, but my car's not gonna be that loud.
You want to be on a low profile when you're at
It's
this
either that or I
phase.
get a custom exhaust.
Drew, come on, Drew.
It's up to you, but why you acting like
The
that?
object is to get home safe. That's all.
You don't have to.
You know, I ran a stop sign in front of two
You
cops.
go out with me and my friends.
That's what I'm saying, Drew. You
It
didn't.
wasn't like I didn't run it, but it was a rolling stop. Like I stopped for like a second, and I just went.
I'm just saying, you never know.
Yeah.
So you don't want to put yourself in
But it
any
made my car
kind of
sound so
questionable
good,
zone.
man.
I'm just suggesting you don't want to be in a questionable zone
Are you
at
not
any
coming?
moment. What happened?
Huh? I want less mufflers. Yeah. Oh, my car sound like yours.
No.
You know what's crazy? I was driving my friend's car. I never got stopped because of how loud it was. You remember that car?
Mm-hmm.
That shit was loud. I will never take my car upstate. Oh, I gotta go see Matthew soon. Yep, I'm not changing my muffler.
No, they give you a ticket.
You know they have a sound meter in New York now? They have sound meters. I don't know where, but I know in Manhattan they have sound meters. And if your car is loud, it reads the decibels.
All right. Sorry about that, folks. I almost forgot that I'm live streaming. All right. So now we're back. And as you can see, I was still doing some of this stuff. I've been doing it for a long time, but it's worth it because most people don't understand why the whole footlocking thing happens in general. So what I'm doing, I'm trying to lift this foot up off the ground, as you can see. As long as you're moving the whole entire object in small, minute adjustments, you should get it working. Now, see, I have this part of the ball of the foot in the ground plane, so I got to go back to pose mode and get the foot rotation to work on that. So there we go. I actually like doing this, showing people every little thing that I have to go through because I know this is going to help a lot of people around the planet. That's the whole aim of it, is to help more people than less. Now that doesn't look too bad, but I still want to go in and orient that foot just enough, 1 micron up. Oop. Go down, and let's see. So we can do it like this, where you see the ground plane, and then we're gonna go up 1. Boom. Now it's touching pretty much perfectly, and then I want to go back to object mode and drag it down just a little bit more so it correctly touches the ground plane. Boom. See, now the full surface is touching, and that's exactly what you want. Let's bring it up a little bit just so it barely touches. Boom. See, that's good. So you'll pretty much see the illusion that it's touching the ground plane there. Right. Okay, so let's hit the play. Now, you see how it's still moving and it looks like it's sliding? The reason is because the toe should be touching at that point. So we're going to go back multiple times. And hold on, we're going to work on some micro movements. So we're going to go forward 1, and now we're going to tap with the toe. Pose mode. My cousins are making a lot of noise outside. We about to go out. That's why I jumped out there. I wasn't sure what they were doing. So we're going to go out soon. So I'm going to end this live stream. And so it's all good. So we're going to bring the toe down. like that, and then you'll see as it moves, the heel is going to come up. That's what happened in this portion. So, oops, I went backward, my bad. So now that we went backward and this is corrected, now I have to move the body up a little bit again. So we're going to move the body up because the toe is no longer in the right position. That should be it right there. And again, folks, we're on automatic keying, so it's making slight adjustments to the keyframes as I go through and scrub through the timeline. So that's a big jump from there. Then this one has to be recorrected with the toe, but it looks like the toe is not, the whole ball of the foot is not correct. So we got to go and rotate just a little bit parallel to the ground plane, and then rotate that toe. Bring that toe down so it makes a toe tap right there. That should be good. And then go forward, and it looked like it jumped. Why did it jump so far? Oh, because there's no keyframes in between right now because we're on the toe. So let's see. Now we got more keyframes. I'm just doing jump keyframes. We don't need to jump it. See, so if you try to jump keyframes, if you don't have any keyframes in the way, it's going to jump to the very next keyframe. So if you don't want to do that, you can use the arrow keys on your keyboard, which I recommend. And that bypasses having to jump keyframes. And instead of jumping, you're just moving the timeline forward, one keyframe at a time. That way you don't get that big jump as you saw, which is kind of crazy. Some people may not understand how to work the timeline in every facet that they can, so that they won't know exactly how to do these fine-tune adjustments like that. But now you know you can use the arrow keys on the keyboard to jump ahead in the timeline. So now see, it's small little micro adjustments of the toe tap that creates the illusion that the heel is going up. So the heel is actually shifting because the bone is shifting a little bit as it moves. But you would think that the foot is sliding. It's not sliding. It's an illusion. That's the whole thing with footlocking. The feet should be in a certain position on the screen at certain moments in time. Alright, this is how I know is just by playing around and trying to do this footlocking stuff over and over and over and over and over again. The more you keep trying to do it, eventually you're going to get better at it. It's just like anything else. So now this looks like, I don't know if this is a toe rotation, because the heel looks like it's coming down somehow. I don't know why. But this might need to be an adjustment where I lift the body up, because it doesn't look right. Oop, and I jumped the frame. My bad. So again, we're not on any keyframe, so that's why that happened. So that's 89. Let's see, forward, 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 and look, it looks like they're flying. So let's go back, see where the flying started. All right, right there. So that's a toe adjust, obviously. Boom, forward, slight toe adjust, boom, slight toe adjust, and angular orientation issue. Okay, bringing the toe back up. You wouldn't think the toe would matter much, but if you want it to look like a real foot walking, or have a feel of a real foot walking, you want to do the toe adjustments, or else it won't look real. Okay, That's a big toe adjust. Look at that. It broke through the ground plane. And it's a body movement. So we're going to go to object mode and lift slightly. Boom. Back to pose mode. 1 frame out. We'll move into the 90th frame. And this is a slight toe adjust. Boom. Slight toe adjust. Doesn't look like it's going the right angle. Should be turning this way and the body should be going up. So we're gonna bring the body down here. All right. Let's go back one. The body's out, so we will adjust the toe how we see fit to correct. Go back one. That's right. That's not right. It shouldn't be floating like that. So that one will probably have to be this issue. Bringing this down and then correct the toe. It's too much of an angle. Yeah. Bringing this one down. I may have to readjust all of this because I forgot to account for the foot. So let's go back and just see if it makes sense. Yeah, it's not sensible. We're gonna have to correct that. Raise this up a little bit. You know when it hits and then it bends. So when you're going forward, this should bend up. So let's see if it does that. Nope, it's not doing that. So this should go like so, and that one should go up. So yeah, that's what it is. So we're gonna bring this down to show the illusion that is bending. This one going up. Okay. Going forward. Come on, let's keep creating this illusion. Oops. So, hold on 1 second. Now the toe should be coming up a little bit. So when this leans forward, not forward, but you know what I mean, it's creating a larger angle. You can look at the heel as well to see if the heel is going up any as it's moving. So as long as the toe is going up when we're going forward in the keyframes, yep, the heel is going up. You see that? Okay, now we're doing good. Yeah, we're doing real good. So the ball of the foot is now controlling the leg at this point. And it's going up a little bit more at a slight bend, and then when the heel goes up further, the whole entire foot should lean forward. So this should go up and this should lean forward, so that the toe is basically taking all the weight of the leg. Let's go forward one more time, and yeah, it looks like it's doing that here. So this is probably the correct orientation of that. Let's do it this bend like that, and move forward again. Move this should go down just a slight bit, like so, and this should go flat. So what we're going to do is we're going to move the object up a little to correct for that orientation, just a little bit, and then go back to pose mode, forward. Yeah, that's great. So now the toe should be like a flat, and this should angle down more. Yeah, like on a flat, kind of. So now the object's gonna go up. Yeah, like that. Let's go forward. Perfect. So now, yeah, now we're gonna rotate this down. Oops, not that one, the foot. And then rotate the toe flat. That's good. Maybe a little bit more, and raise the body up more. Let's see. Oops, wrong one. Gonna push this one down a little bit further and push this one up. Like that. Object going up. Yeah. Let's hit the back arrow. This one's up pretty high because I have to correct this. So let's correct the toe. Oh, actually the heel. Let's see how much I have to correct. This one too. Bring this one down a little bit. Let's go back. Oh, I went forward. Back, back, back. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, I gotta work on this. This is gonna take some time to get it all right, because as he's making his step, it's still actually sliding. So obviously I have to work on that sliding issue. You know what? Once this is planted, it should stay in one position, and so what I have to do is probably push this leg back so it stays in one position. So it's probably a thigh issue, or not a thigh, a shin issue. So let's try to do that. As this one is up in the air, this one should stay in one position. See, it shouldn't like glide. That's not a good thing. But what I could do is go all the way back to the beginning and just copy just some sections of the keyframes that work and loop it. And I can create a loop. And that would alleviate all the issues of having to go back and forth and do all of this stuff across the whole timeline. But I should have done that in the beginning. I do know that. But it's worth it just to look and see what I came out with. Let's just watch and see what we got. Let's see what we got. We got the foot popping. I never seen that. I don't know where that foot popping came from. Yep, another foot popping issue. So it's not going to be perfect, folks, not at all. But as you go in and keep digging deeper, eventually you're going to get it all worked out and it should look pretty decent. Alright, so for the most part, I did get the foot locking down pat. Let's just do an animation test just to see how it looks with the ground plane. And we're not worried about how he looks 100%. We just want to see what I pulled off. Even with the foot popping, I'm not worried about the popping stuff. So we're going to go and do a test render. Viewport render animation. And see what it looks like. The reason why it's freezing is because my external hard drive. I should actually just totally disconnect the external hard drive, but I have my files connected to the external hard drive for this particular project. So it's going to go through all of that. It's going to do that. There goes the test rendering. It's going in and just doing a little bit. I'm not even worried about the arms either, because the arms are not really corrected at any instant. Now this ground plane is so, I guess, such a solid color that you can't really tell that he's walking on the ground or not. So this is probably not a good demonstration. You see how the foot popped up? I don't know why I did that. That was silly. I shouldn't have done that. Uncle Arch, you're gonna go with me. That's how we work it. You go with me, and I'll take you to tutoring and get you there on time.
Okay. I'll be with Mike. Yeah, Mike said you'll get me there.
I think we should. I thought y'all were gonna go on your own anyway, right?
Oh, okay.
So me and Uncle Arch go together. Yeah, I gotta work. Yeah, I gotta work.
I'll tell the guy yes.
Plus, Uncle Arch could hook me up with the gas.
Mm-hmm.
He got me for the tutoring, so it all works out. Yeah. Alright, sorry about that, folks. So the rendering is done. And let's see. And I'm gonna have to scrub the video if it has any audio in the background, because my wife has her room open with audio going around in the background, but it's all good. I'm gonna scrub it at the end of the video and try to get that out of there. So let's go and play the animation. Slowing down a little bit, I don't know why, but let's X this out. And we're gonna go in and go to render and view animation and see what we got. May look crummy, may not. It just has a little 1 foot glitch. It's not bad. I mean, it's better than what I had before, but it doesn't look that great either. So if you want it to look great, like I said, what I would have to do is go in and do a loop, but it doesn't look that bad, actually. It looks like he's actually walking on a surface. You see how he's going up and down? See that little step? It's going up and down with a step. That's not bad. So I have to work on the arms. Obviously, I got to work on some other stuff. You have some instabilities of the body moving a little bit, but that's not bad. Seriously, I've seen much worse, 1000% worse. And the feet, you see the feet is jittering a little bit. That's probably because I was doing those little slight adjustments. But they should be insignificant though if it's not too big of an adjustment. But that's probably because I didn't correct those issues with the graph editor. But if you go in with the graph editor, you really can get it all adjusted the way you want. Like, see that hand position? I can go in and quickly adjust that hand position with the graph editor. That's terrible looking. But I'm not worried about it. I'm just in the phase of building it. So, like, look, we'll just go to the hand, bring it up, and get that hand position corrected. Let's do it real fast. So let's bring the bones in there, zoom in into the hand, go to pose mode, use the circle select all the hand bones, and then the problem with this, I need the main bone actually. So the main hand bone, and then I got to go into the graph editor for the main hand bone and find out what is responsible for the rotation. So as you can see, the orientation doesn't look good. Hold on. In this position here, so I would go in, take out all of these, and then figure out which one. So let's go for the X first on the graph, and there is no orientation, it's just stiff. So if that's the case, we can correct it just by creating an orientation. So we're gonna drop in a keyframe at the one frame, and we're gonna drop in a rotation. And it doesn't want to do anything at that moment for some reason, but hold on, let's see. I don't know why it's not doing it. Pose, what did it say? Animation, insert keyframe. Did it drop one? I think it did. Yep, it dropped the keyframe. There we go. So now what we'll do is rotate that. So we're going to do Shift S, cursor to selected. That 3D cursor is right there. It has to be right at the joint. Just to see it, I'll zoom in for y'all folks to see. But it has to be at that joint. If it's not at that joint, then it's not going to work correctly. Then we are going to rotate on it. We have to bring in the gimbals or handles for it, and we will just do a free rotation. Boom. That looks better. And then we will correctly orient the arm as well. That one we have to use the graph editor because that's going to be total incorrect orientation. So we have to move the graph. So hit the A, Shift A on the keyboard. Let's see what the graph does. Yep. So that's a better position right there. Maybe like that. And maybe we want to give it a slight rotation on the Z axis. Hit the A key. No, so it's not Z. Probably the Y axis. Hit the A key. So what is going on? Why is the bone acting that way? Wow, that's because this bone is not in the right position. So let's see what this bone does. Yeah. Yeah.
Make sure you got your vaccination card.
Okay. Oh, that's why the jacket was so off center. So yeah, this is the correct orientation, I think. So what we will do is rotate this one around like so, and correct the shoulder bone. Swing that in. Yep. So now it's orienting properly. This goes off the Z axis. Okay, there we go. So we will correct the Y again. There we go. Alright, so that's right. And now we will do the hand one more time. That was all because of the, hold on one second. Because when I did the retargeting was all out of whack. So this rotation, we will rotate like so. Okay. And we will swing this one down. So that's the Z, I think. A key on the keyboard. Yep. And then we have to bring out, is that the X? I don't know. Might be the X. Yep, it's the X. There we go. Oop. It swayed back by mistake. So there we, what is going on? Why does it keep swaying back? Okay. So that arm doesn't look too bad now. I fixed one of the issues that I didn't realize I had a big issue of. And that one is the Z. Just focus on the Z. Why do I have another one in there? I don't know what that other graph is. Oh, that's the Y. Okay. So that's the X. I don't know how that's the X-axis. Something's wrong with the orientation, man. This is not supposed to be swinging like this. If that's the X, hold on. This bone is totally out of socket. Where's the Z? Let's see where the Z is at. Okay, so the Z is there. Maybe the W is messed up. I think the W is like a corrective axis. I don't know what's going on now. Look like they got locked out. Maybe the W went too high. Why is the X blocked out? Oh. Oh, okay. Let's see. Somehow the X is blocked out. What is that lock thing? I didn't even press that. Okay. There we go. All right. Just trying to correct the Z orientation. I don't know why the orientation is not working right. Ah, this is working a little better. See, the Z is supposed to swing up and down. Okay. So that must be the Y. I think that's the Y. See where the Z is going. So confusing, man, as to what I'm actually rotating. See, that's not right. Damn. Hold on. Don't want all of them. Okay, let's see. Come on. Fix this orientation. There we go. Maybe I can clear it. Let's go to pose, transform, or clear all, clear the rotations. There we go. Now let's see. Maybe I had to do that in the beginning. Let's see what I get. No, it's still not good, man. Hold on. Let's clear the rotations on all of them. Pose, clear, rotation. Pose, clear, all. For that bone. Let's see the orientation now. What the? Individual origin. Okay. Alright, that's looking a lot better. That right there looks better. But we gotta realize which one we are orienting. But it looks better. Alright, I'm gonna leave, folks. I'm gonna get this arm stuff working. This wasn't a video about arms, but obviously I got orientations all screwed up in the arms. So once I get this working, I'll do another video about the orientations for the arms. But people generally don't have too much problems with the arms besides retargeting issues. So maybe I'll do a retargeting video on how to correct the arms using the proportional editing and the graph editor, through the graph editor correcting with proportional editing and stuff like that. But other than that, y'all folks have definitely got to see what you can do to correct the foot locking. I think I can do another video showing, well, not another video, but another, let's see, let's go back. We can do another animation showing the foot walking on the ground plane. We can do that. This is not on the ground, obviously, but let's see. Starts on the ground plane. Let's see what it does. Yep. Alright. So that's that. We will zoom out and try to show it like this. Go back. Maybe zoom it out and do another animation like that. Okay. So let me see, fast forward where it ends. So it ends over there. And let's do control spacebar just to see where it starts and ends. That's good. So we'll do a start and an end point. Should show the ground plane. This should satisfy the conditions that I did some sort of correcting with the foot locking. But the upper body, obviously, I got to work on all of that. And the jankiness, if I have any little issues that came out. So we'll do view, render animation. Y'all leaving? Alright. So yeah, I'm done. Thanks a lot for watching, folks. Feel free to subscribe, hit the thumbs up. If you feel this is going to benefit other people socially, feel free to share it socially. This is not the conventional method at all by any means of doing this. But as you can see, it is the long haul. In the long haul, you'll get results that you really desire because you're manually correcting everything. And it takes a long time, obviously. It takes a while. and you're gonna have to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth to keep making corrections. So depending on how good the performer was in the actual view of the webcam or the video camera / camcorder, whatever you're recording on, maybe it's a smartphone, that will determine whether the feet will walk really well in the motion capture data that you get from the AI Mocap. And then once you get that working and you get whatever results you got from there, you have to go in and clean it up, obviously, because it's going to take a while. You literally have to go in and go hard and keep going. It might take hours and hours. It might take you a whole week to get the full, cleaned view and version of the animation that you want. But guess what? Once you get what you want and it's a done deal, you can use it. It's something that works, you know what I'm saying? But if you, try to use what you get straight out as a raw motion capture file, it's not going to look the way that you want. It's really going to be messy. And this is much more cleaner. As you can see, it's touching the ground surface throughout the whole thing. Pretty good technique. Takes a little while to understand how it will work for you. I see I had a little inconsistency there. It looked like it went up in the air a little bit. But for the most part, the technique is down. The foot is really good in terms of it being locked to the ground plane. And that would be your way to correct it on Blender without using IK and FK controls. Because you're going to need IK, FK controls if you're doing it in any other method on Blender. But for the most part, this 3D model doesn't have IK, FK controls, so I can't clean it up that way. But other than that, that's all I got. Joy, love, and peace to all. And I'll see you next time. Peace.